only Americans.
Hi again, this is Update Fridays. I'm CJ Holmes, founder of Homeowners for Justice, and bringing you the latest and greatest of what's going on in the nation. We look at what's going on, and then we try to figure out how we can work together as owners and as a nation to fight back against this and stop this crisis for losing our homes. Here's the contact information again. Please don't hesitate to use that. Answering individual questions is tough, and I probably need to set aside some time specifically just for that, because I find like we're not really getting to it on the show like I originally thought. That's okay. This is an Update Friday, and today we're going to be talking about the MERS response to that Williamson County audit. We're going to be looking at the other kinds of battles we're facing, the people that are getting nominated into the cabinet at the federal level, who Obama's picking, more lawsuits that are going on. I'm gonna give you an update of the things that happened Wednesday at Mendocino County when we met with the two supervisors there. And then Jack is going to join us and talk about the nightmare of filing police reports. As you know, we're trying to develop a method. We're just pushing the envelope to get proof of forgery, to get it in the documents, to get our district attorneys to listen to us. How do we proceed? And so we're all fighting, and we need to share this information together so that we can all work to make this deal happen. But before we get started, I want to just remind you again, there's a couple of events next week that are planned. Democracy Now! If you can make it, that would be great. It's a showing of the movie Heist, and we'll have a discussion. And I'm going to lead the discussion. I've been asked anyway. And it's going to be a strategy session on how owners and how activists can work together to really affect the change. Yesterday was the failing regime, and it's pretty depressing, except it's like I keep saying, it's the silver lining. It's got to get bad enough that people listen. Mostly, if they're doing fine, they don't care. It's good enough. I'm doing fine. Leave me alone. It's when they're not doing fine that they're going to be listening to our message. So that is the challenge and the opportunity of our lifetime, and it's up to you and me to make this change happen. This is what our generation is here for. Okay, and also next week, Mendocino County Recorder. The Occupy groups up there, plus myself, homeowner. We're going to go into the recorder. We're going to show them the forged documents. I'd like to play, the 3 minutes of John O'Brien talking about this conspiracy with the banks. And let's see, we're going to be gauging the kind of response we get. Because so far, a lot of the recorders is just saying, leave me alone, it's not my job. But, it is when they are told and it's proven that these documents are forged. They take an oath. It is their job. So we need to help them, if you will, redefine their job and get the supervisors and the district attorney and the sheriffs all on board. So that's what we're working on. So without further ado, we're going to talk first about the MERS audit response. And just as a quick update, I'm playing just like a minute, so I can link it into the comment section about the audit. It's a 14-minute segment of the Williamson County audit findings.
If you see something that looks irregular, find a lawyer. I think, Attorney General Holder and the other people who were behind this in the first place had good intentions. I think they wanted to make the system more efficient, but they cut corners. And I know in the age of TARP, it is astonishing to think of banks cutting corners. But I think maybe they did a couple of times. And, it's causing people to lose their homes when they shouldn't. It's causing the county to lose millions of dollars, nationwide, billions of dollars in recording fees that aren't being paid. And that was MERS' original pitch in their business model. We're going to save you $16 per document. Doesn't sound like much, but when you talk about 70 million mortgages, each one with 4 or 5 documents, okay, now you're talking about 500 million documents, $16 a document, that's $8 billion. That's real money. Well, one of the things you look for is, has my note been assigned more than once?
And he continues in talking about how you can tell yourself if you've got problems. We've been discussing that. I don't want to play anymore. But this is the point. Did you hear what he said? 500 million documents? Half a billion documents? That is the point. That's the point. And when we know that they're all robo-signed, they're all forged, the notaries are fraudulent, and it's been proven over and over and over by a few people, like O'Brien, the audits, the independent audits that are being done, saying 84% of the foreclosures are illegal. That's ruining this country. That is the point. So this is really great. Listen to Murr's response. I'm going to probably have to read it. It's just an article right now. This was filed yesterday, and from Round Rock, a national company that Williamson County has accused of cheating the government out of nearly $1 million of mortgage transfer fees, fired back on Wednesday with a letter saying county officials need to check their facts. It is not the first time that Murr's has been accused of shortchanging local governments, but so far, and this is the unfortunate truth, the company has been largely successful in the courtroom where the county and company could soon meet. Williamson County is on the verge of joining a growing number of counties across the country that have filed lawsuits against Murr's, claiming they are out millions of dollars in recording fees that the company helps banks avoid. And right now, we've already talked about Multnomah County suing Murr's, and I want to focus on that next week. Dallas and 2 other counties in Texas are suing Murr's. There's other lawsuits around the country. It's considering there's 3,100 counties. It's not a big proportion yet, but that is the point. What if every county was suing Murr's? What would happen then? And see, Dallas County, their lawsuit, as a reminder, they are trying to pierce the corporate veil between Murr's and Bank of America. There's the key. We got to get through that umbrella, that smoke screen of Murr's, into the true players, the people that put it together and that are getting fees out of it. So the auditor back here on the article, who conducted the recent audit, said that Murr's would attempt, of course, to discredit the work, but it's a little too late. There are a dozen county clerks out for blood, and Murr's is the target, Krieger said. If they didn't do anything wrong, why is everyone suing them? The response letter from the president of CEOs Murr's Corp, Bill Beckman, was published as a paid advertisement. Remember, they got the money. In the American Statesman on Thursday, and it claims that now listen to this, every deed of trust handled by the group is recorded in the county land record and the appropriate fees are paid. It says the company has operated in Texas for 15 years and is recognized in the land statutes. The letter cites multiple court cases it's won in Texas. Now notice what they said that they're dealing with. They're talking about the deeds of trust. That's not what we're talking about. See how they shift, and you got to really figure out what are they saying. And so it says Murr's has consistently prevailed in legal challenges, and of course we have lots of other people that will tell us that's because the judges won't let evidence into court. And it's true that Murr's has reduced fees paid to the county. It also reduces the work the county recorders have to do after a deed of trust is recorded. But of course, Krieger points out that the letter's technically correct, just like we're talking about, but it doesn't have to pay the fees. It's the members that pay the fees. Murr's is just a holding. It's just a computer database. And let's never forget that every certifying officer of Murr's is concurrently the bank employee of the bank that's taken the benefit from the owner to themselves. Never forget that. And of course, the Murr's response letter never talks about the assignments. It's all about the assignments and the trustee substitutions. An assignment takes the benefit of that loan, and the deed of trust is a security instrument that connects that loan to the property. So it takes that benefit from one party to another. That's what an assignment does. So a bank employee puts on Murr's cap and says, oh, now the bank gets it. And that's the bank giving it to themselves technically and legally. And a trustee substitution is a substitute where now that the bank has taken, the benefit, now the bank has the authority to say, okay, I want this foreclosure trustee to foreclose, go foreclose. And it substitutes the trustee, which is supposed to be a neutral third party, but the trustees, the banks substitute, are wholly owned subsidiaries of the banks. So it's a complete scam and fraud. Let's really understand, and when people talk to you about it, make sure they understand these basic facts, because they're not too hard to understand, but it is a huge smokescreen. Now, I want to move on quickly into what is going down up in the federal level. Here's Penny Pritzker is eyed for Commerce Secretary. Now, this is she's the major fundraiser for Obama, and I apologize, I'm not picking. Remember, I'm not an R or a D person. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm for the people. We're all for the people, and you need to understand that many Republicans, many Democrats, probably most of both parties, everywhere, are bought off by the banks. The end. And so I'm always saying, let's say in ourselves, let's start thinking, are they for the people or are they for the banks? That's the key. So here you got Penny Pritzker. Now, I'm going to play the little video, and then I'm going to read some information about Penny that is, fairly troubling, actually. And this is the point.
Nominee for Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker is running into some problems. And with the story on that, we've got Peter Nicholas. He joins us now from Washington, D.C. This is always tricky, these nominations. What in particular has Penny Pritzker done that's, or allegedly done, that's running her into problems?
Well, let's just correct one thing. She's not been nominated yet. She's at this point just considered the front runner for the nomination. The president hasn't nominated anyone yet for the job, but we hear that she is the leading candidate at this point. The main complication seems to be that although there are women's organizations that like her and would be happy to see another woman appointed to the president's cabinet, another part of the president's political base, organized labor, has issues with her family's ownership of Hyatt hotels. That Unite Here, a union that represents service workers, for example, has many of its members working in Hyatt hotels, and they've complained about working conditions there. So they have personalized this in some way and have at times drawn attention to Penny Pritzker at Obama campaign rallies in past years. So this is an issue that splits the Obama political coalition. Hyatt Hotels denies that their conditions are improper in any way, and a labor investigation, an OSHA investigation, did not turn up any citations or findings. But the president's political base does seem to be split about this, and that could complicate the president's efforts to go forward with this nomination.
Yeah, it does seem that way. I mean, it will be good. From your story, I understand that she should be great because she'll be someone from Chicago, and that would be someone he knows and likes and can work with. And yeah, at the other side of it, there's the union thing. How does he square that circle? It's going to be tricky for him, right?
Very tricky because she's political royalty in a way. She was with President Obama even before he gave that 2004 speech at the Democratic Convention in Boston that catapulted him to the national stage. So, he's indebted to her. She was his fundraising chairman in the 2008 presidential campaign. She's raised considerable sum of money for him. She's friends with him and friends with members of his senior staff. So he would like to honor that, but at the same time, he does not want to anger his union supporters, who were also pretty helpful in getting out the vote for him in 2008 and 2012.
Okay, well, that's something for him to chew on over the next few days. Thank you very much, Peter Nicholas. More on that on WSJ.com and in tomorrow's paper.
And now, interestingly enough, they're only talking back a few years. They talk about her as a fundraiser. She's very wealthy. And Hyatt Hotels. You need to hear this because Dennis Bernstein, KPFA Radio, last year when I first started, having episodes on his show, he is really against Penny because he covered her and her predatory lending 20 years ago. I'm going to read this out loud. Billionaire business mogul Penny Pritzker is a member of one of America's richest families and was the finance chair for the presidential campaign of Barack Obama. Pritzker was into subprime lending before it became all the rage, starting in 2000. Pritzker's chairmanship was to concentrate on subprime lending, principally on home mortgages, but for a while in subprime auto lending too. After the Pritzker's bank acquired its wholesale mortgage organization division, Alliance Funding, in December 1992. And I just want to make an aside here. Don't ever forget, any of you that heard my town halls or have looked at the information on the website, all of this, the seeds of all of this that we're experiencing now were planted in the 90s. Late 80s, early 90s is when this stuff started. And now we're reaping this whirlwind of a mess because of it. Back then, back to the article, they called it predatory lending. Superior Bank went belly up in 2001 with over $1 billion in insured and uninsured deposits. 1,400 depositors lost much of their life savings, and the collapse came amid harsh criticism of how Superior's owners, think Pritzker's, promoted some subprime home mortgages. And as you would see, and I'll link this so you can read the rest of the article, it's never the people that own the bank that lose. Superior collapsed in 2001 under the weight of $500 million in subprime loan defaults and improper accounting. Sound familiar? It's the same game over and over. And so this woman ran the campaign finances for Obama and was considered by him to be the Secretary of Commerce in his administration. Well, not then, but she is now. She is now. And this is the point. You got to understand, you got Eric Holder at the Department of Justice, you got DeMarco in FHFA, you've got Bernanke in the Fed Reserve, you got Geithner who's stepping down and they're going to replace him with Jacob Lew. You got to face the music. This is the point. This is happening right now. This is our update. Okay? Our update is everybody getting put into the cabinet and the power positions that are there or staying there or getting promoted are for the banks and will always be for the banks. And it's not for the people. So we as owners and fighters, not only in saving our homes and getting people locally to support us, we have to start thinking about how can we affect that. Can we? What can we do? Here's the next article I wanted just a quick update. The House Democrats are asking Obama to replace DeMarco. Listen, they've been asking for that for over a year. They've been doing move on petitions. They've been petitioning and organizing at the Capitol. They've been doing all kinds of stuff, which of course you probably don't hear about, and it's not been effective because DeMarco is still there. He's still refusing to do principal reductions. We already know from other information we've gotten on other audios and I've shown in my live stream that the Fannie and Freddie, 60% of the loans they theoretically own, although now it's coming out, we listen to Renee and we look at the articles and you're saying, well, they don't even really own it, or they do, or they don't. You listen to James and you know the tangible and intangible property. This is why it's such a complete mess, why it's so difficult to fight on that playing field, why I keep talking about the owners, we need to do our own playing field. So here they go. And this is something else we need to consider as activists and homeowners. How can we get involved? What can we do? This is part of the problem. Here's another lawsuit. This is just a quick update and an overview of what's going on right this minute in our nation on foreclosures. So now this county in Massachusetts, Barnstable County, is going to sue Fannie and Freddie. And they are claiming that their federal exemption from paying the county's deed excise and transfer taxes is illegal. Now, Fannie and Freddie have already lost this lawsuit in another state. I can't remember off the top of my head which one. It's on my legal action by state. And so the facts are, we can see if they've already lost in one county, they're being sued in another. Here's another lawsuit that counties are going to go, gee, that county's making money, maybe we could make money off of this. So this is some of the action, because I keep looking at how can we help the homeowners? How can we help ourselves? How can we, make everything that we're doing really have more clout? What if every county was suing MERS and Fannie and Freddie? Do you think we could get a judge or two to shut down the foreclosure mills? Maybe they could just stop. That's what we need. We need that to stop. That's number one. How can we use whatever's happening? We can hear all about it. You can listen on every other show about all the horrible stuff and what's wrong. And here we are trying to fix it. That is the point. And one more thing I'd like to, a couple things I want to point out is that these links are being sent to me. So when you have links, please just send them to me. It really helps me put these shows together, which we do just about every morning because it's really current. But this is a link to the hearings that were done on Wall Street and the financial crisis, the role of high-risk home loans. And this was done in 2010. Now, in 2010, most of us might not even been involved in this effort. I was only just sort of telling everybody I know personally, this is horrible, we got to stop foreclosures because it's ruining property values. But I did not know all the fraud and forgery that was going on. It never occurred to me at the time. And so here's this article, and from this article, what I want to show is these exhibits, because now these exhibits are still available. We can go back and look at these exhibits. So here's the exhibits. This is the hearing on the Wall Street and the financial crisis in April 13, 2010. Isn't it interesting that it was in April 11, 2012? 2 years later, a judge came down and ordered the banks, and the banks agreed in writing to change their ways, stop robo-signing, have authorized documents, and of course, they haven't. They've continued to do this. I love what Randy said 2 days ago. He calls it contempt of court. This is contempt of court. So how do we leverage that? Help me think this through. Give me ideas. Let's leverage, how do the people leverage contempt of court? So anyway, go back into the exhibits, and I just want to highlight a few pages of it. It's 600 pages, so good luck with the research. But on page 17, here are the Washington Mutual practices that created a mortgage time bomb. And they targeted higher risk borrowers, they steered them to these toxic loans, they increased sales of these loans to Wall Street. And when it says Wall Street, you always think, our pension funds bought this crap. And they were told by that S&P ratings agency that it was great stuff. That's why S&P is being sued by the federal government. Here's the point though. All of those lawsuits, they get settlements and the owners still lose their home. So you can go down the list and you can see that in 2010, they had this as an exhibit. And I wanted to point out this chart. It's on page 18 of that same 600 pages of exhibits from that investigation at the Senate level in 2010. And this is the securitizations of Washington Mutual and Long Beach subprime home loans. Okay, just looking at that chart is scary. Look at what they were doing. Look from 04 to 05 to 06. It isn't any wonder we have this crisis right now. So that is the point. These are the issues that are happening. And this is what I want to bring to the public, the updates of information. And then I wanted to tell you real quickly what went on in Mendocino County. Mendocino County, there was a homeowner, there were 12 other activists, the supervisors and myself, over a dozen people were there, and we also Skyped in contact from Public Banking Institute to answer questions, because the issues are many, and by the end of the discussion, a really interesting analogy came up, because it is complicated, and keeping everything straight in people's minds, especially when they first hear about the crisis, and then we start talking about money and public banking, it's like, okay, how does this work? I see this as a bunch of bubbles coming up. They're bubbling up. And the first bubble coming up and breaking right now that we must protect ourselves against is the foreclosures. We have to stop that. That is instant and urgent. And I'm telling everybody, tell every owner you know and everybody listening, please, when you email me and you say my auction is next week, what should I do? Help me. Go to the website, hofj.org. Go to filing an OCC complaint and file a complaint. That is the only thing other than bankruptcy that I know of right now that can at least temporarily postpone the auction. File the complaint, get yourself some relief. Then look through the other pages, foreclosure defense, notary complaints, and I know I'm going to reorg some of this information to make it more concise and collect things that have now ended up getting strewed on various web pages to put it on the same page. But nevertheless, that information is going to be there. And the point is, postpone the auction. Then start developing the proof of fraud and forgery. And the plan is to take that as a people, as owners, as individuals, and literally get it out to the planet. Get it out to all of the county officials, all of the state officials, major news media, as hundreds of owners send the same kinds of forged notary proof, signature proof on these recorded documents, and we send it to TV stations like Channel 7 on your side up here in the Bay Area. I would love everybody in the nation just send in where you think people in your area should be sending. What media should these owners be sending their information to? And I'm going to make a list, because if we coordinate the effort so that the same places get thousands, that's the goal, thousands of these complaints, then we can build this movement. Then they can't sweep it under the rug. And it won't be just a win over here for MERS and, everybody else is screwed. And as you well know, if you've been watching this at all or are in court, it is just absolutely outrageous, but judges are pretty much not allowing evidence on the part of the owners into court. That's how they can rule for the banks. And so the courts are really not a good refuge for injured parties right now. That's why we're trying to do something outside the courts. So back to the Mendocino County. So that was the first bubble is the foreclosure crisis, but coming right up under that is, when you think through the crisis, and the whole point is MERS has ruined the records. How are we going to clean up the records? So there might be a role to play in eminent domain, because once the cities or counties eminent domain contract rights, it clears all title problems. So that's sort of out there, but a bubble coming up. Another bubble coming up under that is public banking, because as I've said before, and I'm going to say probably every show, because I want everybody, anytime, everywhere, to understand it's all about the money. It is about the money. The money we use right now are not US dollars. Take one out of your wallet, look at it, and it says Federal Reserve note. This is money. Our medium of exchange requires interest payments to the banks. The Federal Reserve, which creates the credit and creates the money, actually is owned by Citi and Chase. They're the major owners. So every time you take a dollar out of your pocket, you have to understand that to use that dollar, you are paying the banks. And that's wrong. That is a 100-year con game. The Federal Reserve was put into place in 1913. It's been 100 years, and we are reaping the whirlwind of that. But we can stop that. It's very simple. We can get private or public banks to create public credit for the public benefit. So when that public credit is created and used in the system, interest for that can flow back into the public coffers. North Dakota, that's why I keep talking about it. So we talked about that in this meeting, but we also talked about the fact that the recordings right now are fraudulent and forged. And Mendocino County, like many of you other activists going into the recorder's office, are just getting blown out. The recorder says, I'm just a vessel. They send it in, I record it. The end. And they're not willing to step up like John O'Brien to say, okay, I'm gonna do an affidavit of authority, and I'm not gonna record it until they sign that. Most recorders will not do that. And we can't really expect them to do that alone. So we're building a coalition, and those supervisors, it came out in the meeting, it was a great meeting, that the recorder told one of the supervisors, or one of the activists a year ago, that it would take $18,000 for an audit of the foreclosures, like the audits we've been talking about. San Francisco, Massachusetts, they did these audits. Texas did this audit, Williamson County. And the supervisors are saying, 18,000? Well, we have a $250 million budget. I'm sure we could scrounge 18 grand somewhere. That's not undoable. So here's the point. And I've called out, Renee said she has a list of auditors. I want auditors willing to do reasonably priced audits for every county in the nation. Just send me your information. Tell me which counties. Tell me what you charge. Come on, let's get this list, because then we can send it out to all the county recorders, and the county recorders can say, well, gee, we'll copy the supervisors, and they'll say, well, that's not very much. Let's see. Let's have them do an audit on our county. Let's see how they've screwed up our people, our prices, how much we've lost. So that came out in the meeting, and that was really good. And the supervisors were very interested in actually the public banking concept. But here's the key. Here's a key, and I want everyone to pay close attention. The fact of the matter is, and public banking contact, Mike actually said, when I said what I said, he said, oh my goodness, this is probably the key. So this is the key to selling public banking. The fact of the matter is, when you go to the PBI website, Public Banking Institute, and you look at the North Dakota model, the facts are that it's a state public bank, and the state public bank doesn't make loans. They partner with the local and regional private banks in the state, and they partner with them, and so the money stays in the state. And so the private local banks love the public bank. So let's go get our private local banks, local and small regional banks and credit unions interested. Because if they want a public bank, it's done. Right? So, new strategy on selling public banking. I told them at that meeting that I would have a list of all the benefits for public banking. I hope to have it for today. I don't yet. I apologize. I will have that. It will be on the site. We will focus on it next week, because this is the way. Mike said Public Banking Institute has like 200 discussions going on with cities and counties around the country. Now there's 3,100 counties, thousands of cities, but 200 is not a bad number. That's a massive number, and they're running ragged, and they're not able to get over that hump to where the people will say, yes, we want it. So let's focus on the small local banks in every county. So if you're in whatever county you're in, just find the local banks. Find the local banking institute. Go in and talk to them. Once we have a flyer for all the benefits of public banking, they'll probably start paying attention, because what it means is their risk will be reduced and they will make better profits. And it wins. It wins for everybody. So let's focus on that. All right. Enough about Mendocino County. Let's get Jack on board, because Jack has been trying to file public police reports trying to get people to listen to him. Hey, Jack, is this you?
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much for holding. So you're on the air, and I've got your picture up, and you're a forensic investigator. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your situation, and what has been going on trying to get somebody to listen to you.
You know, that's the biggest problem. I think we'd all agree, no matter what angle or what process we use, we tend to go about our ways and getting as much information from many different sources, and we feel confident that we're on the right track, and suddenly months go by and you get no response. So not too dissimilar from anyone else. Mine is the same situation. I am a victim. I'm going to try and be careful about what I say, but at the same time, I do want to, use an example that's real. So why not? I'll be a guinea pig myself. I have a loan with Bank of America, so they say, as always, and Recon Trust is got me in foreclosure. My next sale date of the 4 that I've had is in May, and I decided that I would attack this thing from a purely documentary basis. I believe many of your speakers in the past have talked about this. Randy's mentioned it, going through documents, and actually decided I'd start off with my assignment of deed of trust, which ironically was filed 2 years after my original refinance. I had no choice in the bank. And so I pulled all my documents, got them together. I felt confident I had everything. Lo and behold, you were the first one to tell me that, whether you realize it or not, I told you, the substitution of trustee was missing. I thought I had a red herring in my boat with me because of the missing SOT. And in fact, found out that they don't index those in most counties, whether it's done on purpose or not, but the substitution of trustee actually is filed, what I have seen, previous to, but exactly at the same time, with the same time and date stamp as the notice of default. Have you seen that?
Oh yes, that's real typical. And generally, like, people will say, check my documents, and I will say, have you had a notice of default yet? And they'll say, no. And I said, well, you have no documents because MERS files nothing, pretty much, until the notice of default. And so then they may file an assignment at 10 o'clock, a trustee substitution at 10 o'clock and 15 seconds, and then a notice of default at 10 o'clock and 30 seconds. I mean, it's just like boom, 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 however fast the recorder can stamp it. And they're just a few minutes, seconds or minutes apart. And that's when you have documents in general. That's what pretty much happens today.
Okay, well, I don't know if you can put up any of my attachments that I sent you, but basically I can just run through them real quickly, because I could be long-winded. I can be as bad as Renee, but not as bad.
Which one? Hey, so, Jack, which ones do you want?
The first assignment of deed of trust on July 11th was filed, and like I said, it was 2 years after the original mortgage was signed. So I don't know. What happened in between with that? It's a big question everybody has. Does that mean the bank didn't have it or not? I sent them a few payments and then had my financial problems, the whole story, the usual.
Yeah.
They told me that I can only get assistance if I stop paying. They actually wrote me back a letter, B of A did recently, where they put that in writing, that finally, I've got it from them, that they acknowledge the fact that they told me to stop paying on the mortgage for help. So responses and letters back do help, but it seems to be a never-ending process. So what I did was I took my assignment of deed of trust. I noticed the mortgage electronic registration signature on this document. I have Christopher Ferreira. You'll notice there highlighted in the yellow of the date in the first block in the middle there. And the dates match. The notary, Norma Rojas, has verified that, and you'll notice under the standard authorization for a notary, it says in the middle of that paragraph under State of California, County of Ventura, executed the same in his or whatever authorized capacity, and that by his signature on the instrument, the entity upon behalf of which the personally acted, executed the instrument. What we're saying here is that the notary is actually stating, yes, that's their. I'm agreeing that must be their authorized capacity, and then basically you've got the notary there. So that's what I set out to do. If you'll skip ahead, I went ahead and you'll notice the page California Secretary of State, Deborah Bowen, is it, I guess, Brown or whatever it is, Bowen.
And which document now are you talking about, Jack? I'll get it up.
Okay, thank you for your email at the top, California Secretary of State. You want to write the Secretary of State's office and either get a history on this notary, see if there's any investigations. They may or may not tell you, probably won't tell you, but at least to find out if they're in possession of the notary log or if it has been reported lost or stolen. Because this is what we're seeing from many sources, is that when people go to ask the notary for the log of the day that this document, and this applies to all the documents where there's a notary authorization, you want to find out who that is by their name on the authorization for this document, and it'll be held on the journal log. In California, fortunately, we've got the thumbprint and all the ID of this person signing. And believe it or not, through my usual pretext, I was able to obtain this from my notary. And you'll see that amongst the documents there.
Yep.
Middle of that page, I've got assignment of deed of trust, Bank of America. At the top of that, the notary journal log. Let's see. You got the person's name, their signature. So you've got their signature spelled out, not a little scribbling like we usually see on the documents. If their signature is spelled out, that's good.
Yep.
And then, let's see, below that.
Yep, you got a driver's license.
That is that. There you go.
Yep. Yep.
And then in the bottom of that notary log journal, you'll see my name, and then above that,
yep,
CDL. This is the California driver's license number of the signer.
Right. Right. And so now you could do the driver's license request for signature. They just send signature, or do you get a picture too, or what do you get? Do you know?
No, all you get is a printout of their driver history without an address, date of birth, height, weight, physical. You'll notice that our driver's licenses in California, for the most part, I have found when there's an expiration, you've already captured the month and day of their birthday in the expiration.
Right.
So in that respect alone, you've got this person's date of birth being born April 20th of some year.
Right.
In this case, my DMV record came back that he was born in 1967. There's a lot of online stuff about this gentleman that says that he's like a vice president of B of A, and that has deterred a lot of people because they believe that's who this is. And I don't believe he is. I believe he's just an individual out there that was a real estate salesman and has signed these documents for whatever reason, because he's 26 years old.
Right.
I don't know of anybody that would be, of course, who knows? He's probably got vice presidents everywhere that are 18, 19 years old at the rate I've seen.
Right.
So, with that in mind, I decided that I would prosecute these people under 115 PC 115.5, which you have on your website. Thank you very much.
Right.
Verbatim, without going into the statute, it covers this very area, both for the notary and for this MERS signer. And then you just proceed from that and file your complaint directly with the district attorney of the county of venue. In this case, this may be one of the bumps that I'm hoping the Homeowners Bill of Rights took care of, and that is the issue of multi-jurisdictional. You've got a document that was signed and notarized in one county, and then the document is recorded in another county. And
right.
That's almost always the case.
Very
rarely
right.
You see it all in the same county.
Exactly. Jack, I'm just telling the people, I'm showing the assignment of deed of trust again, and you'll note that the notary is in Ventura County, but it's recorded in San Diego County. So where do you file? Where do you file a complaint? In your county in San Diego?
Just as everybody has said before, hit them all.
Hit them all.
So
Okay.
I filed the complaint also in San Diego County because
Okay.
that's where it was recorded, and that's also where the crime was committed, as well as the crime being committed in Ventura County. They both cover the statute, but it's all one act. It's just, who prosecutes this? That's basically what I ran into.
Okay.
San Diego pointed their finger at the AG's office, and of course you do want to send your complaint to the Attorney General. All these people have their complaint forms ready for you online, and they seem to have a very good way and process with which to pursue these, with directions and everything. Unlike some places where they don't even tell you what to put in the complaint, they'll tell you what they want. I always add more if I can and attach documents unless they tell you not to. I got responses back from everybody. I got case numbers from everybody, Attorney General, the Ventura County DA, and the San Diego County DA, and they all pretty much said the same thing in a template form. We appreciate your interest, your input. We will look into this. They gave me a case number, and that's it. And that was as of a year ago.
A year? Okay, so you've been way ahead of what we're trying to do. I mean, we're trying to basically copy what you're doing, expand it a little bit. So have you had any response from any of these counties or the AG?
They are no longer calling me, or they're no longer answering my calls or my emails. They fall into deaf ears and blind eyes if I send them a document. Nothing.
And you're still fighting, trying to stave off foreclosure auction, right?
Oh, absolutely, and I've done the things that you've outlined. Thank you very much. You are such a queen when it comes to this whole process. Or, you'd be a princess. But the fact is that all of those things that you've outlined, the OCC complaint, the Financial Protection Bureau, I've done all those things, but I haven't done them all at once. I've kind of saved them just in case, and hence I've had 4 sale postponements from November 5th all the way to May 8th. And I've watched the Recon Trust. There's so much more here about the documents, and I've given you other documents, but let's just say that, if anybody has any questions, contact you. They can contact me. I'm on your organizational chart for the director for San Diego.
Right.
Do that rather than waste time, right? But
well, not necessarily, Jack, because people all over the country now are listening to this. So hit the highlights, and I can pull up any document. You tell me what you want, I can find it. Like you sent me the merchant's bond. Some of these things are really important that we at least get the basics down.
Okay, well, let's go to that.
Okay, here it is.
So in addition to obtaining the status of your notary, I want to point out the most important thing here, and I think, Randy, good job. I see you're here. Thanks for repeatedly telling people don't rely on signatures to be your sole reason and or purpose for determining whether you have an altered, forged, or false document. Because without the standard, or it's referred to as exemplar, or the original provable signature of that individual, then you really don't have anything. And I know when I did this as an experiment and signed about 30 or 40 times in different moods that I have, and I'm a guy, I'm not that moody, so they should all be pretty consistent. But basically, I signed differently. And I looked at a couple of them and said, man, I don't know. Do those match? Don't rely on the signatures. They mean nothing if they're different. But you will find consistencies in those that are the same for sure. A document expert, as we have found with this recent one that came out in what was her name? In not Mendocino, Stannis, I can't remember what it was, recently published her finding on a document and had it all spelled out, had actually down to the points of the raising of the printing of the ink and red, blue, green tints to it. That's a document examiner that's examined the document to determine if it's a copy or not.
Right.
And that's predominantly what you're going to look for. But other than that, the most important thing you're looking for in these signatures is to find out if indeed they are that person that has signed it or said they have signed it. And that's where I've gone. I want to find out who this person is. possibly depose them. And in many cases, we have deposed notaries or alleged MERS assistant secretaries, and we can find those declarations, and you can see where they went. Many of them, honestly, didn't really go much of anywhere because our judiciary still it doesn't get it. And that's the hurdles that we're just going to face until this thing breaks. I think Homeowners for Justice, C.J. Holmes, the people that we have here, I think you guys are the instrumental ones in getting this out there, and I thank you for it. Now, go back to the merchant's bonding.
Okay.
This is the filed at the county clerk's office. This is the filed bond that is required under California law for anyone that has
Right.
a bond associated with notary publics have to do this and register it with the clerk's office. Notice I said clerk's office and not the recorder's office. Now, they're both the same in most counties now, and I believe in California since they joined the two. But I think if you can't get it, if they're not the same when you call to get this, then just tell them, I'm looking for the notary public bond.
Okay.
This is the actual bond that shows the signature of your notary. Bingo, you've
Right.
got the original signature, and you've got their amount of liability limitation of $15,000.
Right.
So you're gonna put all your paperwork together, like we've said before. Follow that same procedure. I believe Randy touched on it. Produce a complaint to Merchants Bonding, including all the information, and that you file the police report. Show the letters back with a case number. Send it in to Merchants Bonding. You want to be able to prove to them, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this person has committed this violation, and that you are attaching their liability portion of their bond for whatever amount you have. You have to prove a loss, cause of action, similar to it in a court of law. You've got to prove to them that you've incurred a loss. And if you haven't lost your home, you're going to have to prove expenses. Say you tried a quiet title, you've got attorney's fees, all these things that you have spent that you can prove with receipts that you've used to defend yourself because of this person's action. That's the only thing you're going to be able to recover. Misery, time, and stuff like that for your work that you've done. You're not going to get that back. I have yet to see anybody get anything back from any of these. I'd love to hear if they have.
Right.
Have yet to hear back from anyone to see if filing the police report, and I think Randy mentioned that first, alone first, and then pushing it through the police department to the DA's office. I didn't choose to do that because years ago when I ran security for Craig and Auto Parts, all of my prosecutions were done directly with the DA's office. I didn't even involve the police departments. And I got great success that way because I hate to say this, but many detectives don't really get it. And they're there just to file a piece of paper and not really follow through. So that's it. Merchants bonding. Many of the notaries have that. Check with the Secretary of State. Other documents that are in your file are going to follow the same procedure for whether this indeed is the right person. And yes, indeed, on my documents you have there the substitution of trustee, which is another questioned document. And guess whose name's on that? None other than our favorite Linda Green of California for B of A and Recon Trust, Lauren Stone. Thing on her signature appears on my notice of default. So, and her signature varies greatly. On your website, you have that very well spelled out.
Right.
As to her signature. Somewhere along the line, someone accepted the fact that it was okay to sign a legal document of this sort by scribbling.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
This is the thing I don't understand. Notaries have to sign their name. And where did we change the law or the enforcement of it where it was acceptable to make a one-stroke pen entry for a document that could lead to the loss of someone's property?
Yeah, exactly.
To answer that.
Yeah, and see, here's the real troubling fact. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, Jack, because I hadn't realized that you had actually already filed these reports, years ago, and now they're just ignoring you. But I'm showing right now the substitution of trustee with one of the 6 or 7 different, significantly different signatures of Lauren Stone that's already on my suspicious signatures page. And I believe there's 5 or 6 different notaries that have notarized those different signatures. So the whole thing is a mess and a lie and a fraud. But
I just recently, believe it or not, I have procrastinated, shame on me. I just recently sent off my notary log request, and I'll report it to you. Maybe we'll have you back on later for the notary in this very document.
Yes. And I'm going to be editing and updating my suspicious signature webpage to have specifically journal entry signatures, driver's license signatures, oath and notary bond signatures for the various names, and because I've just done a big long name list, and I will separate those out so that people can quickly see if there is any signatures that anybody's been able to get, and if so, what they look like. But here's the point. Here's my question to you. Since you filed these, you have these numbers. It's not stopped the auction for you. What do you think? Do you honestly think that if we had 100 people in San Diego County, let's say, because that's where you're at, if you got another 99 people to file similar complaints, do you think that would make a difference?
Absolutely. And with my other organization I belong to, that's actually the course of action that we are taking. Homeowner Powered Solutions, a great group of guys and gals. Charles Capa, I work with Charles in his efforts. He's online right now. And, we've got so many things going on. I'm trying to bring everybody together, and everybody's got their own little cliques and cliches that they prefer to stick to. It's sad that we can't all come together. And I'd like to use you as like the main one to help us all produce documents to the recorder's office and make the recorder do an audit and stop the foreclosures, stop accepting any additional fraudulent documents. So that's where we're headed. Granted, if I had 99 people, and I've tried, when I first got my assignment back in July or August of 2011, I sent out letters to every person who had the same notary and the same MERS person signed. So I knew of those 10 people that day that had those documents sent. They were all fraudulent. They had to be. Not one, who is now one of my business partners, was the only one that answered. And I think it's probably because people thought that it was, someone out there trying to scam them for something.
Right.
And it's just sad. But now we're moving ahead in the right direction, and potentially with, everything that's going on right now, fortunately my quiet title action was dismissed without prejudice, so I could go back there again with more ammunition and produce these documents at the initial complaint, rather than wait for the other side to demur and throw it out, which is what most of us are seeing when we go through Superior Court in California.
Right.
Is you get it thrown out by demur. You never get to submit any documents.
That's right.
Because your attorney says, well, you don't do that, in the original complaint. You want to hold back on that and wait for discovery.
Forget it.
Part of that is the attorney's ploy.
Exactly.
Money. The other part is they really don't get it or know what they're doing, because you're going to lose. Inevitably, you're going to lose. So I keep trying with your support and your help and the input of everybody else. Thanks a lot, gang, for all the stuff you produce. I do watch, if I can, every day. And if I produce anything else that is going to help us all, believe me, you'll see me on the sidebar or in an email to you.
Thank you, Jack. We just so appreciate your effort. And this is really how it's going to have to work. The people have to unite. And again, I make it very clear, I don't care what organization you want to work with. That is fine. Just make sure that what they're doing actually will benefit. For example, I'm so frustrated with some of these organizations that seem to still stick with, we're going to call the CEO and to try to stop a foreclosure. And I'm telling them, like in capital letters in my emails, file the OCC complaint. Don't be stupid. We know that that works. That's what worked for you, right, Jack?
Yes, it was, and I faxed it directly to Recon Trust's legal
Absolutely.
department number. And you know, people, I see so much people asking for this information, and can I just really make it easier for you? When we talk about a browser search or a Google search, you want to keep your search down to preferably less than 3 or at least 3 combination of words. Put quotes around them if you want to specifically find those 3 words together somewhere on the internet, and that's a good starting point. Or just 2 with a space in between them in quotes, and you will find those 2 words next to each other, quoted in a document or somewhere. And that's how I found, believe it or not, a lot of my stuff. It's one of the main things I use as a PI, and I'm licensed in California and have been in Nevada too, so that you know, I've got access to a lot of things most people don't, but we won't talk about that. So you just got to be diligent, and I wanted you to post my quote up there because it's quoted from Arthur Golden from New York, the owners of the New York Times. Is that, and I think it's a good way just to get rid of me.
What quote is that?
A mind troubled by doubt cannot focus on the course to victory.
That's a very good quote. Say it one more time, and then we'll sign off.
Okay. A mind troubled by doubt cannot focus on the course to victory. Don't allow these letdowns and doors that are shut in your face and brick walls that come up to disgust you and give up. I'm going to leave my house. I tried. I can't.
Right.
Don't.
Right.
Stick to it.
Right.
Look it.
Exactly. And on the back of my business card, I've actually printed now, first they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, then you win. And that's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. And with that, I'm signing off. This is CJ Holmes, founder of Homeowners for Justice, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.